Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Cinema A to B. This week on the podcast, we finally have got another newer film for you. This is Warfare. It just came out this year, 2025. It's co-directed by Alex Garland and former Navy SEAL Ray Mendoza from his experiences in Ramadi. So, Alec, get us started, man, on this latest entry in the war genre.
I saw this in probably as close to a perfect setting as possible. I did not get to catch this in IMAX. However, I got to see it in a screening all by myself in the theater.
Wow.
Like a 7 o'clock showing, not a soul in the theater. Now, it wasn't stadium seating, but it was fine. It was still huge screen, great sound. And I'm really glad I got to see this in the theater. And in a way of just how powerful everything was and really how immersive the sound is in this movie. This is a tough movie, and it is definitely not a war film that's been kind of Hollywoodized or whatever, or turned in. I mean, it breaks a whole lot of storytelling normalcies that you would get. I mean, even something like Black Hawk Down, Saving Private Ryan, even Band of Brothers, it doesn't follow those scripts. It doesn't follow it. Like, it's basically, I mean, it was Ray Mendoza, we'll get into it, but basically this is kind of a movie for Elliot, one of the snipers who got played by Cosmo Jarvis. Apparently he doesn't remember this day at all after kind of going through it. And so they spent the time to talking with all the SEALs that were there. Although I think there were also 2 Marines that were part of their team as well, or one of the Navy SEALs. I know teams had some Marines in it, but they ended up kind of cobbling this together and making sure that it was as accurate as possible. And so they didn't really put something in unless at least 2 SEALs remembered it this way. So it's not trying to glorify it. It's just basically trying to bring back Elliot's memories or kind of remind him what happened that day in Ramadi. So it's brutal. It's rough. It is, I don't even know. I mean, Garland and Mendoza do a fantastic job of, I think, getting across the quote unquote tenseness of waiting for things to happen in this film. All the people I know who have served talk about there's a lot of hurry up and wait before something happens, or there's the waiting in between battles or skirmishes or fights where you have to stay vigilant, but yet nothing is happening. And there's that kind of dull boredom or that ability, that dullness to hit where the adrenaline leaves your body or whatever else, where you kind of are forcing yourself to stay awake or stay ready. And this movie does a great job of just getting that across.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're right. It does break with convention. There's notably no music in the film at all. It's completely devoid of any sort of score, which I thought was, for what they're trying to accomplish, is a really important choice. Mm-hmm. And then in that sort of vacuum, I guess, without a score, now you have, at least for me, probably the best sound design in a war film that I've heard since Saving Private Ryan. Mm-hmm. And I really regret not getting into the IMAX screening, but I will have to say, not unlike you, I had a very good screening for this. I paid a little bit more for it, but it was like an 8:30 showing. It was a Regal on the east side of town, and they're the only ones that have a 21 plus section to their set of theaters. There's 4 or 5 screens over there that are, and they're gated off, show your ID. So there's no riffraff in there. There were only 7 or 8 of us total in the screening and the showing. Really nice stadium seating, and they had the sound dialed in. Mm-hmm. And honestly, they had it about as loud as they could probably get away with. I don't know if I could have tolerated this thing in IMAX, because what I'm hearing is that, pun intended, is that it pushes the envelope of really what your hearing can deal with for 90 minutes. Yeah. Fortunately, the whole movie's not a continual firefight, but I'd say the bulk of it is. I'd say at least close to 60 minutes of it is intermittent to constant gunfire. No, I tried to not judge this up against other war movies, because I think that's a mistake. What it's trying to do is just put you in country with this group. You're not getting any backstory on who these guys are. You would think that would work against it, but as far as an experience, I think that doesn't matter. They're trying to put you as much into the boots as they possibly can of a SEAL or Marine or anybody operating in country during GWAT in Iraq, and this is what you're dealing with, and sort of the senselessness of it as well. And that's, I won't really get into that too much, but that's definitely in the movie. Like I get that sense towards the end of the film, like just, what's this for? But they get so much right. A lot of war movies, the cast feels way too old for the age group that they're trying to portray. And I would say for the most part, this gets that right. These feel like early 20s, and which is where most SEALs, there aren't really any SEALs that are 18. Like that doesn't, your body's just not matured enough for buds. But I felt like they got it right. And then do you remember the film Act of Valor?
Yeah, with the one with the actual Navy SEALs. Yeah, the
actual Navy SEAls. I think it's shot on like Canon 5Ds. It's kind of a cool movie. I feel like they fixed the issues with that movie, which was that the SEALs just weren't good enough actors to really do what needed to be. They moved well, like there, and I highly recommend Act of Valor. It's got some really cool sequences with a halo jump and come up out of the water, and like they do night raids and stuff. Like, I'm not dismissing that movie, but they fixed that. They cast like a lot of hot up and coming actors, and they all do their thing.
Well, I know a couple of them are actually the same age as their counterparts were. So like
in 06.
In 06, like Wu Na Tai. I'm sorry if that name is pronounced. That this is actually my first introduction to him. I mean, he plays Ray, so he plays
DeFaro Wu Na Tai.
Yeah.
So he was really good.
Yeah, he was really good, and he's the same age as what
Ray
Mendoza was actually there in 2006. And there's a couple of others. I mean, they're not all correct, but there was at least 2 or 3 that I read that were like the right age for it. So I think I agree with you. They did a good job of pairing that. But going back, like, not only like there's no setup. They don't tell you anything about the mission. There's no like Black Hawk Down. Here's the meeting with the generals or whoever's in charge. What's going? It's just you get that hype up video of them watching that music video for "Call Me Whatever," like one of the only songs in the movie, and then it's the night before. Scene. Yeah, it is. I mean, because that's what they do. Is I would watch videos before I do other stuff.
I guess we are playing spoiler on this. Oh. When it opened with that, I was blown away. I really was. I was like, wow, we're really in it. We're just in it now. Like, this fits. No, the only thing I wanted to note, there are several actors, British actors in this that are vets playing SEALs, but one's a Royal Marine. This Aaron McKenzie that plays Kelly was Royal Marine. And then this guy that played Mikey, Alex Brockdorf, spent 6 years enlisted right after 9/11. He's from like Cornwall, England. Doesn't say what unit he was with, but so it's like they found the leads are like actors, but then that second grouping of guys are actual veterans that just happen to be actors, which I think is the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Because you get guys that move right? Like, even if they weren't in like a tier 2 unit, if those guys fought post 9/11, they would know how to like clear a building. And so you didn't even have to teach them that. You would just like, oh, here's a refresher.
Well, and they did, and even with the actors, they put them through like kind of a Bud's Light boot camp or whatever.
It was like, 3.5 weeks, I think.
Yeah, it was like really, really short. But apparently what they did that for, like, because Ray Mendoza actually kind of put that on for them, apparently. But one of the things it did was, they learned all about their weapons, and so like as they're firing their weapons, if they got a jam or whatever, that wasn't like it just happened in the moment. They were able to improvise and know how to clear it and how to get the gun shooting again, and that know how to cover each other if like something jams. So it was this, while they didn't script every moment, some of those moments that are in the movie are improvised but done correctly because of all the additional training, which I thought was really cool when I read about that.
Yeah, that's a nice touch.
Hits back to actors who just train so well, who know how to do these things.
Right.
So
going back to your point about all the downtime and the waiting, and I was taking note of that immediately. I was like, oh, this is so authentic. Like, having talked to vets, like it is, even in training, it's a bunch of hurry up and wait, which honestly, filmmaking's not unlike that either, which I think I honestly think is why filmmaking like draws, like the veterans are kind of drawn to filmmaking, because this is a bunch of hurry up and wait. That's about where the similarities end. But that felt right. And it was like, then the dread of knowing that they're massing for a movement on their position. And then once the gunfight starts, like, it was really interesting. I'm realizing how many Hollywood movies, and I know why they do this, because it's just more visually engaging. Like, so many Hollywood war films, you can see like who you're shooting at, right?
Yeah.
When in reality, that's just not usually the case. And this film did an incredible job of that, of them like just having to fire blindly, like through doors and windows and stuff, because you might have seen a shadow pass by. I was like, this is it. Like, it's not sexy, it's not flashy, but with the sound design that they've put in the film, it's super compelling. And yeah, you feel as challenged as the characters you're watching on screen. It's like, I can't see what I'm shooting at. Like,
they're just firing blindly, putting down suppressive fire or doing whatever just to get things going. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, since we are going to play spoiler, there are not very many moments of like anything of levity in this. There's a few.
Yeah.
But when they're figuring out which building they're going to set up in it for the evening, and the one guy starts to do that gyration.
Yeah.
From Call on Me, and then the other guy just does like a little pause and then it returns. Really, that stuff reminded me of Generation Kill.
Yeah.
And that's the only other show that I can really recommend that properly conveys like the camaraderie.
And the hurry up and wait. And
yes, yeah. The challenge with Generation Kill is that, fortunately, those units running roughshod across Iraq during the initial invasion in 2003, just, they got injured, but like in that show, there wasn't a bunch of bad wounds and stuff.
No.
And so ultimately that show kind of, I hate to say it, it almost came across as pro-war at times, because the devastation just wasn't there as much. I mean, there's some civilian loss of life in that show that is really tough to watch, but generally speaking, as far as the unit you're following, they're fine. Like, they don't get tore up the way they do in this movie. Like, the injuries in this movie are insane.
Absolutely.
Like, I didn't think the one guy was even alive. I thought that guy was wasting his time on him.
Yeah.
They had me convinced that, I was like, is this guy in shock? Like, running med care on this casualty? Like, is he so shocked that he's just going through the motions? Like, no way, this guy's still.
Well, and they talk about that most of them thought he was dead. We got his body in, that's what matters. And I think it was Ray who was working on him, or whoever was working on him was like the only one who was like, no, we could do something for him. And the rest of them that's why they're working on the other guy.
It's that Lieutenant McDonald.
Yeah.
Who turns in a great performance, because it's Michael Gandolfini.
Yeah.
Apple doesn't fall from the tree.
No.
Far from the tree with him. So yeah, it's a tough watch. It's
a very tough watch. I mean, again, they don't pull any punches. They just as near as I can tell from conversations I've had from people like this is something that would be quite accurate to what's going on.
Well, if you go on, broken record, but if you go on Reddit to threads with this film, like they nailed it, because Iraq and Afghanistan veterans are inundated in the comments of like how accurate this is. They're like, and they'll say stuff like the opening scene of them watching Call on Me. They're like, that's what we miss. Yeah. Like, we don't miss, not many guys miss combat but that brotherhood, that fraternity, that's the stuff they can't really get back. Like, so I think it's as much a window into this world as you're going to get for us that never served.
No. Yeah.
And I can't, there was a lot of negative comments on this film pre-release on Instagram, thinking it was going to be some sort of pro-war, oorah, like DOD, like a Top Gun Maverick. And I'm like, and I commented and was like, absolutely not. No, this is memoirs from a pretty bad time in Ramadi. This is going to be as anti-war as it gets, because lately, the last, I'd say probably since the 70s, most war pictures coming out of Hollywood are anti-war. Mm-hmm. You have to go back to like the 50s and 60s to find anything that comes across as like pro-war. So I don't know why people thought they were like poo-pooing A24, like, I love A24, but I don't know if I want to go see this, or like, I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like this is not going to be, it's not comparable to much. Like there were some sequences that reminded me of American Sniper a little bit.
But that's much more of a Hollywood story than this is. I mean,
it is.
As much as maybe they got right, but it is built for that kind of Hollywood movie, and this is not.
No.
I mean, the frenetic nature of it was so much that it wasn't until someone said it. I thought originally, and again, we're talking spoiler, but I thought the APCs got hit by a RPG, not an IED. Like, I had no idea, because just the scene all of a sudden is there, and then you just see this explosion. You see a scene with a guy with an RPG, like, in that little building or whatever across the way. And that's what I thought until they're like, no, it's an IED. And I was like, oh my goodness, what's going on? Like, I have no idea what's going on.
Well, I thought it was a suicide vest.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
because, it blew up the Iraqi army guy.
Yeah.
He took the brunt of it. He was blown in half. And I thought with the way the explosion happened, I thought he was wearing a vest. Mm-hmm. Because there was no crater.
Yeah.
Which threw me. Like, there was no crater under so I'm like, where did it come from? Yeah. But based on the recollections, it wasn't like a suicide vest thing. It was an IED. But and that whole sequence is as harrowing as it gets. Like, from the moment it happens, which is utterly terrifying. We can't even play spoiler on it, because I'm not going to even tell you like when it happens. Like, you can't even predict it. It just comes out of nowhere, and it is like, I think the hair on my arms was standing up because it was so jarring. And then the aftermath was portrayed extremely well. Mm-hmm. Kind of took some sound design notes from Private Ryan. I felt like that made a lot of sense. So no, I think this thing's getting ready to hit streamers like in 3 days from when we're recording this. I think May 8th or 9th was when it was gonna. But if somebody can still catch it in theaters, I would totally
recommend it.
Recommend it. I'm not going to wait till the end of our conversation to say that. Like, I think it's about the experience. Like, the story's like secondary. This is trying to put you in very rare boots.
And it's not even for us. It's for
it's for vets.
Yeah. It's for Elliot. I mean, it's purposefully built for that, to tell him the story that he can't remember, and we're just able to see into this little 90-minute window.
I'm glad you can't remember that.
Oh yeah. Like, well, just one, I have a lot of respect for Cosmo Jarvis already because of what his work in Shogun was, and I thought he was brilliant in that. I see this and I'm just like, oh my goodness, dude, you have good range, because it is impressive what he did. Both, even the beginning of the character, of just kind of how he handled himself, to how he dealt with pain and the level of that. I mean, and then Joseph Quinn, who, we get from Gladiator 2 as one of the emperors, and then also as Eddie from Stranger Things. Yeah. But like, his screams, man, like, he dealing with that, like, that pain was impressive.
Well, and it was the scenes with him were super frustrating, especially the SEAL that comes in later.
Oh yeah,
that's just like
kicks his foot.
Yeah, well, kicks his foot, and then like is like trying to like rally him with this kind of machismo stuff, and Ray's like, "What are you doing? Like, this isn't what he needs right now." And it was like that. I don't know. It's like, I think pre-combat that psyche is probably of value, but eventually enough bad stuff's going to happen that it's just really not helpful anymore. Mm-hmm. And that was frustrating to watch. But yeah, like, people walking by him, kicking the foot, like, just total disregard for this guy that's like out of the fight. And yeah, it's pretty infuriating to watch.
And I think I misspoke. I think before when I said that they all passed up Elliot for dead, I think it was actually Sam, because Sam had that really bad gash kind of almost on his artery on his leg, and they just kind of thought Sam was gone.
I think they thought both were gone.
Yeah.
I mean, based on their wounds. Yeah, Elliot was the one that I was just like,
he's gone. Yeah, he's dead.
How's this? This guy looks like he's totally gone, and it's yeah. I don't even know if I want to watch it again. Like,
yeah,
and it has nothing to do with the quality of the movie. I've had enough time to sit on it and kind of work through what I thought were initially flaws, and realized like, no, they're not. Structurally, like, this is what this looks like.
Yeah,
they don't have time for backstories on the guys, because I think the film's supposed to be representative of like more vets than just the guys that were involved in this event. And so to even give them really elaborate backstory almost would take away from that. Like, they're not faceless, nameless per se, but some of them are kind of close. And so the movie's just representative of a much larger group than this group of SEALs in Ramadi in 06. Just talked about that. How it is. It's for Elliot, like you said, but it's also the next level is for veterans. Like, it absolutely is. If they can stomach watching it. I mean, I'm remembering the initial run of Saving Private Ryan, and 2 or 3 vets walked out during the Omaha Beach sequence in my screening alone, and that was happening all over the country. I don't know about this, because the sound is so wicked in this that if you're still dealing with PTSD, I don't know if you can be able to sit through it. Maybe I have the wrong idea, and maybe it's therapeutic for those guys, but it is harrowing. Yeah. It's probably the best word I can use to describe it. Yeah, not flashy. Not flashy
at all.
No, yeah. I mean, the combat's, there's some great sequences in it, like on rooftop, and they're like, it's not a Saw, it's like the successor to the Saw, the fully automatic like infantry support weapon that's just loud as mess. And the sequences with that stuff are super cool, but by that point you're like more invested in like seeing these guys just survive. You're not really, and I guess it had parallels for me in some ways to Lone Survivor, where it's like less interested in like, oh, is this a cool action sequence or not? It's like you're more like, I just hope these guys make it,
or
with minimal loss of life, like it,
or hearing or anything else. I mean, with especially like when they blew claymores, like that was just
and it screws up. Eric played really well by Will Poulter.
Yeah,
and that's the best depiction of a traumatic brain injury I've ever seen on screen.
Yeah.
He's just, he's fighting it the entire time. Like, he's trying with everything he has to will himself to lead this unit, and he just can't do it.
No, but then he has the wherewithal to tell the other team lead to just say, I can't, I'm
messed up, man.
Yeah.
And it was the Claymore that did it.
Yeah, it was.
Plus the IED.
Yeah.
It was both back to back, and he was just he was toast. Like, it was amazing he was able to like walk around. Yeah, that was really tough watch with him, with that character. Like,
where you're trying to lead these men, know that you need to be the center, and you're just so
your brain just won't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Just man. It was just frenetic. Just I left the theater and I was so pumped of adrenaline, kind of a thing. And maybe not adrenaline, but just so, like, almost like my instinctual fight or flight response came from having seen that. It was so visceral, so frenetic that it was just like I had to like sit in my car because I just wanted to like drive as fast as possible and like just go. And I'm like, no, just you need to calm down a little bit. So it was.
I was really sullen and like somber leaving the.
Yeah, no, it was not like a happy.
No,
it was just kind of all of the tenseness and everything that had kind of built up and when So it was rough. I did want to kind of talk because I'd read a story about it because Ray Mendoza actually was the choreographer for the White House fight sequence in Civil War.
Oh, okay.
Which is how Alex Garland was really impressed with all of that. And so he was like, hey, and this is the story goes. Basically, he said, hey, do you have a story you want to tell? And Ray had been working on this and was trying to do it, and told Alex Garland about it. He was like, let's basically was like, we're doing this now. Like, let's get this done. And so they basically went straight from Civil War to shooting this. So Alex was like, let's not waste any time. Let's just get it done.
And what blows my mind is, I mean, they shot some stuff in London, and then they shot on location in Iraq.
Well, so outside of the opening, like once the title sequence pops up, when it says warfare, it's actually, it all happens in camp. Like, it's from the same amount of time. So like, it's like 90 minutes from the time warfare comes up. Like, that's the sequence of events. That's how quick it did. Like, there's no like time jumps after the title sequence happens. You know, that's how long the tanks took, or, you know, the ABCs took. That's how long they had to wait for guys to show up. And I heard of this, but I didn't know specifically these things. So I definitely did a little deep dive of kind of learning more about this battle and what the Navy SEALs were doing in regards to it.
Yeah. And Instagram, somebody was like, you know, DOD's I was like, no, there's no Department of Defense involvement in this, and there wasn't. And the reason I'll tell you there wasn't is because they had to do visual like modifications of like a British armored personnel carrier in order to make them look like Bradleys. Yeah, because they didn't have Bradleys. Like, they couldn't even get like an old Bradley. I guess the turret shape is like kind of the giveaway. The size and the shape of the turret's like not really quite right, but outside of that, visually, like, totally authentic, and it's something else.
It is something.
But yeah,
else.
there is. I kind of want to circle back. There is that element of the senselessness of like that theater of conflict in particular, just especially with the way it ends. Like, they clear out, and then it's like the neighborhood just kind of.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I won't spend a bunch of time on that, but like, that's pretty. The only thing I'll say is like, because there was a Delta Force guy I watch a lot on YouTube, former Delta, and he ran a ton of missions. I mean, this was the guy known as the Sheriff of Baghdad, John McPhee, and he's hilarious. But like, he was like, we shouldn't have been in Iraq. Like, it was. But he's like, but I will say, the sons of Saddam were like heinous beyond belief, because they had captured the lions that those brothers had, and they were in these like chain link cages, which was like real suspect. And American military personnel are walking around these cages, and the lions do nothing, don't care at all. As soon as a woman or a child walked by the cage, they went freaking nuts. And McPhee was like, I knew then that's who the brothers were feeding the lions, was women and children. So those guys aren't there anymore. I mean, I wouldn't say it was completely senseless, but obviously destabilized. And the movie kind of, it doesn't hit you over the head with that messaging, but it's like, it's there. It's like,
there's what I'm looking for. The senselessness, I think, is the right word, but at the end, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's really political at all in any sense.
No, it's not. It's just it's like
more of.
But the fact they go through all that, right, and then that family's home that they're in just gets blown to bits. It's amazing it's even still standing, and then everybody pulls out, and then it just kind of goes back to
normal. Yeah. It's
like
normal, quote unquote.
Yeah. That to me conveyed the kind of like, what are we doing? Kind of from a mission standpoint. Like, it reminded me with them reading grid coordinates and having all the houses numbered, and we're moving on house 58. It reminded me of watching the Vietnam movies where it's like, we're going to go take hill 58. The parallels were like definitely there. And I've never seen a Vietnam War film that wasn't like, what are we doing?
What are we doing here? Yeah.
But I mean, ultimately, that stuff means less because it's like Black Hawk Down, so eloquently put. Nobody cares about that. They're just fighting for the guy next to him.
Mm-hmm.
To their left, to their right. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And so the rest is like sort of doesn't matter as much. You're right though. It's not a particularly political film at all. Like in fact, I think it's pretty much zero. Other than it's kind of impossible not to convey that why did these two guys like have a dramatic change in their quality of life for this? Like what are we who are we trying to go after? So I don't know.
Well, anything else that you want to pass along?
No, I mean,
I'm going to say it again. Ben already said it, but if you have a chance, see this in the theaters.
Well, we spoiled the mess out of it. So like if somebody's listened through the episode, they've probably watched it already, but like,
hopefully
you better have it. If you're not going to go to a theater or if you can't get there, you really need to have a sound system that's kind of worthy of this movie. I just haven't heard sound design like this in a long time. Yeah. So
at least have to have a sub and a couple speakers, not just TV speakers. Yeah.
I was kind of curious what the Atmos mix of this was like with its ability to throw sound even kind of spatially more than a 5.1 or 7.1 or even like a IMAX mix. So there was something, I can't remember the scene where it really threw the sound like off to my left and all the characters like react on screen.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, that movie should just do this more often. Like, it's such a fun sensory experience. Like whoever the sound, I'm not going to dig through right now, but whoever the sound editor and sound mixers were,
well done.
Yeah. The problem is that release was so early in 25 that by the time the Oscars come around again, like they're going to have to remind people. Of course, now you have the new rule. You got to watch all the movies.
Yeah, which still confounds me. Like, how do you make a decision? Anyways, that's beside the point. My goodness. So, well.
Yeah. I think you got anything?
No, I don't. So, well, we just want to thank everybody for giving this episode on Alex Garland's and Ray Mendoza's Warfare a listen. We really appreciate it. And we will see you next week with another episode of Cinema A to B.